your money's worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is Dr. Mark Banschick, child and adolescent psychiatrist, formerly with Cornell Weill, and now private practice. Hi, Mark. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Judith.
Okay, and Mark, you're not only are you a child psychiatrist, you're also an author, and you have a series of books. The one I have in my hand is called The Intelligent Divorce. Gee, when I first saw that, I almost thought it was oxymoronic. Is there such a thing as an intelligent divorce?
It's like
Mark?
military intelligence kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, is there such a thing as an intelligent divorce?
Actually, the goal is to become intelligent in doing a divorce. You know, think about it. Is this the happy divorce? It's not the spiritual divorce. It's not the good divorce. It's the intelligent divorce. And the reason is that when people go through divorce, they regress, and they don't act like they should very often, and their kids get hurt. And so I try to teach people to be more intelligent about the way they handle it.
Particularly to avoid harming the children.
Particularly to avoid harming the children. I'll give you an example if you'd like. So let's say you're a 35-year-old woman, and you're on the phone, you're getting a divorce, and your ex-husband is late on child support, and you're angry, right? You're angry.
Okay, right.
And you're talking to your girlfriend, and you're saying, he's such a you-know-what, and you bad language, the whole thing. Your 8-year-old son walks into the room, and you continue, and you say, he doesn't even love my son. Okay, full stop. Do you remember, does she remember that the next day? No. Does he remember that?
Does the child remember it?
Does the child remember it? How long does the child remember that?
Long time. I mean, kids talk about what their parents said 20 years ago, 25 years ago. In fact, I don't, you know, you're a psychiatrist yourself, and so I don't want to, you know, cast aspersions on your profession, but plenty of psychiatrists have kept busy over the years listening to men and women, mature adult men and women, talk about what happened to them in their childhood.
Right.
Is that not true?
Absolutely. And my point is that we know that divorce happens, 50% of the population, okay? So it's a lot of people. 2 million people in the United States every year are divorced. 1.5 million children are affected. And we know that when people go through divorce, they're going through a hard time, and they're going to make mistakes.
All right, so let's start now and get to some points about how to avoid making these mistakes, given mistakes are made. So let me just particularly hone in on some of the things that I gleaned from your book, Intelligent Divorce, because your kids come first, and that's a given. Okay, so let's get started. You're thinking about a divorce. You and your spouse have touched on the topic. It looks as like you're moving in that direction. How soon or how early do you talk to the kids?
You talk to the kids when you know it's time, but you also have to be careful, because...
Do they intuit it? Can they tell in the atmosphere?
They know, but kids are remarkably good at denial. So if you are able to kind of get your act together and know what all the plans are, so that when you tell the kids what's happening, it's better. Do
you tell them together?
I like that, yes.
You like better to sit down and say, so for example, you say mommy and daddy. I mean, at what age should you introduce it? Under 6 or before 6? Do you talk to a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old?
I think...
What is the age, what is the appropriate age to even have a conversation about this, Mark?
Yes. I think, first of all, when you have somebody, if you have, let's say, a grade school child and older, having a conversation about it makes perfect sense.
Right.
With a kid that's 4, 3, 2, or 1,
pre-kindergarten,
you're really going to tell them what is going to be happening. The most important thing is that they need to see that you're together, that the two of you are telling them that it's not their fault, that mommy and daddy are going to change the way the family is structured, that they're going to be okay. And you know what's interesting? If you handle it right, and you're not angry and bitter and yelling in front of them, and you handle that behind closed doors, the questions they're going to ask you are things like, am I going to stay in the same school? Am I going to be able to have my same friends?
Same bed.
Am I going to have the same bed? And you should have an answer to that question.
Okay, so let's go slow. Okay, so you just said that you would prefer or even recommend that the parents tell the child or children together. And first off, if they have some ready answers for some very common kind of questions. That borders on the parents having already had pre-discussions with themselves about the fact that they were not going to go below a certain line in terms of their own self-discipline. It's all is people that are angry enough about their marriage to want to get a divorce. Can you reliably expect those two people to sit and talk conversationally?
This is tough. You're asking for the best case scenario. Best case scenario is parents are getting divorced, they're not happy with each other, they're going to a counselor, they talk it over, how we're going to tell the kids, they work it out together.
Respectfully.
Respectfully. They do their anger and their stuff behind closed doors. They have their lawyers talking behind closed doors, and they keep their kids safe. I want to make a point. There's something called the intergenerational boundary.
Intergenerational boundary, okay.
Okay. The intergenerational boundary is the notion that there are two generations. There's an adult generation and a child generation. And the adults have an obligation to protect the innocence of their children. And it has to come from the grown-ups. And so if you try to get your son and say to him, you know what, mommy's a jerk, she's leaving us. If in that case that I just talked about, where she's on the phone, if she says in front of her 8-year-old that daddy's not taking care of my son and he hears it, that's not protected in the generational boundary. So what am I doing? I know people are going to regress, and I know people are going to make mistakes, but I teach them the mistakes they're going to make before they make them. If you look at my course, my family stabilization course.
Tell us.
Right.
Give us an example of what you do.
So my family stabilization course, we have actors who play roles, and it teaches people what they can expect when they go through divorce. So we'll have a scene like that, where a person is, the person's on the phone, they're saying the wrong thing.
So you role model bad behavior?
We role model bad behavior for the parents to see, so that they, in anticipation, they can prevent from doing it. You have the most power to change if you stop a bad behavior before it happens.
Right.
That's
right.
the wisdom.
I mean, I know. I'm in a long-term marriage, and listen. I just want to make this one point. You're the psychiatrist, but I tell people all the time, myself included, every day is not a 50-50 day. Maybe there is no such thing as 50-50. Every day is not a wonderful day in a marriage, whether it's young or old. You have to go with the flow. And as long as people are reasonably happy most of the time, I think that's a good goal.
That's a good goal.
That's what I tell.
Well, marriage, we know. We can have another show on marriage.
Exactly. It's not a 50-50 deal with each partner being perfectly happy every day. But however, I just want to say the one thing. It does seem to me that it would be important, Mark, I'm just talking, to be sure that you don't have these conversations when you're at an anger point. I find myself that if I need to discuss something difficult with one of my children, or even with my own husband, we'll say, I know in advance not to go there when I'm angry or tired, because my own reserves are
Judith,
lower.
So we call this strike when the iron is cold.
Strike when the iron is cold. I like that.
Because you strike when the iron's hot, what's going to happen?
You're going to get hot.
And they're going to react, and they're going to get angry.
Okay. All right. So now we're using up a lot of good time. We have to have you back. So let's go on further.
Okay.
Now, I understand the intergenerational boundary. So, how much do you say? Just enough that the youngster needs to know?
It depends.
When do you stop?
My book's important to read, and
okay.
you may.
I know that, Mark, but we have a show here, so we want to give our viewers enough that they know that they're getting their money's worth, which is our show.
If you have a preschool child, you need to let them know what's going to be happening. They need to know all the details.
And a 9 to 10
grade school child, 9 to 10, they need to know more details. They've obviously seen you fighting. You can acknowledge to them that it's been hard in the house. You can ask them for their feelings. You can elicit for them what they've been going through.
Sometimes the tensions get reduced just when the folks decide to get divorced.
And it might be a relief for them because they know it's coming, and then they can talk about it.
Right.
Teenagers are very savvy. They may roll their eyes and say, look, I knew this was coming. They may want to know a lot of details that you may decide not to say. And teenagers are so provocative at times that they may ask you questions that you really don't want to answer until you're really ready.
So what do you say? This is not a good time to answer that?
I don't think you had sex together for the last 10 years. Your 17-year-old girl says.
Is that your business?
Your 17-year-old girl says, you know, I don't think so.
So what do you say? Is that your business?
Yes. Intergenerational boundaries. You know, you're entitled to your privacy as a parent. And it is not necessarily a good thing for her to have information that's more than she can handle.
Right, good point.
And you know what? When she's 27 or 37
it's still
or
not
47,
to answer.
it's up to you to answer again.
Right. Okay, good point. Now, I want to ask you some of the things. I don't want to run out of time. We have some,
My
key
pleasure.
questions. Yeah. What about after or during the divorce, or when it's finalized, is either spouse seeing other people? How does that handle? I mean, it's we're New York City. Sometimes there's joint custody. I know families where 3 days a week or every other weekend, but the man, the father or the mother is living with somebody. And it's your every other weekend. What do you do about that,
You see,
Dr. Banschick?
Yeah, thank you. This topic fascinates me because I feel like I'm on another planet because people's behaviors are oftentimes not appropriate, and if they learn about it beforehand, they're better off. I'll give you an example. People go through divorce, and sometimes they become adolescents again.
Yes.
So they date a lot, and they have sex a lot, and
they
it's
go on
great.
Facebook.
And it makes them happy, but
what does it do to the kids?
Intergenerational boundaries. You have private time. Go have sex. Go have friends. Go have girlfriends.
But don't have somebody in the house when your kid is
Not now. When they're there, it's you and them, and that's fine. Some people are so entitled that they'll say, well, they're going to have to deal with my girlfriend. And my answer to that is, you know what? These children did not ask for the divorce.
Right. What do they ask to be born?
They didn't ask. You brought these children to this planet. They need time to digest the divorce, to grieve what they're going through. And you don't want to bring a girlfriend or a boyfriend into their life for about a year. Right. Let them settle. And there's a reason for that. Because if they like this woman, they may feel that they're betraying the mother.
Exactly. And so have all kinds of loyalty issues.
Leave them alone.
Leave them alone. Yeah, well, those are well-spoken words. This is a good topic, and we've used up most of our time. We have about a minute left, so tell me something. I want to exit on a very good point here. What is the single most important? I know you have 10 commandments, which I enjoyed reading.
Thank you.
What is the single most important commandment to tell our viewers as they are approaching divorce? The single best thing they can do.
Take a deep breath. Realize that life is not fair. It's not a good thing what's happened to you. That you're going to have a life ahead, and protect the innocence of your children.
So that they can have a good life ahead.
Everyone should have a good life ahead.
Right.
Protect the innocence of your children. It will get better. And don't make some bad mistakes that you can't take back.
Or that they'll remember 20 years later.
That's right.
Or 25. The Intelligent Divorce, Dr. Mark Banschick, because your kids come first. Good advice. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
We'll have you back. Thanks. You're watching Getting Your Money's Worth. Thanks for watching.